Garmadon.
Hello everyone, my name is One and welcome back to the second What If on the channel. After the last video, I realised this kind of thing is way more fun when you let loose. So this time we've got a pretty crazy set of events. It's not simple. What if Garmadon remained in his more evil mindset? From the point when Wu enters the Dark Realm and finds him, we're going to make Garmadon a quite bit less interested in what Wu had to say. The thing is here is that the core component of Garmadon in Season 1 was his relationship with Lloyd. However, in the pilots it was far more broad than that. And they hint at the furthering of the brotherly relationship as opposed to the brand new character of Lloyd that came in 2012. This is important as we could technically argue that Garmadon might not kill Wu, but considering how it happened legitimately, I'm going to go ahead and say that if we pumped him up the evil here to 11, to the point where the Lloyd arc happens so differently, he won't be showing any mercy. So, let's get right into this. After the mud golems absorb Wu into their biomass and suffocate him slowly to death, I'm going to remove Wu from the entire situation. I know technically this could further some event here that takes place upon Wu's death, especially if it was caused by Garmadon. Tommy has hinted at their existence aren't exactly normal, but beyond those hints, yeah, no specifics. So I can't really make any changes here. Again, if you're watching this in the future when something like this is confirmed or deconfirmed, I'm sorry. I'm going to still let Garmadon know that Lloyd needs him. It's the fact that he refused to save Wu that I'm changing, not that part. I believe Garmadon would still be highly interested in Lloyd. If there was anyone in all of Ninjago he'd share anything with, it'd be his son. And I think that in this timeline that would still happen. He'd hear the fact that he's been caught with the Serpentine and see it as the perfect way to re-enter into his life, and set himself up as the great role model for Lloyd, twisting the boy down his path. Whereas in the original timeline, he didn't want that for Lloyd at all. I believe he'd still travel to Ninjago and actually save Lloyd from Pythor in episode 8, with the Royal Cup going on. He'd sneak into where the Serpentine were holding him, destroy them all basically, and get out with Lloyd. Now, in this position, at this point in time, Lloyd would have started to see the light, so to speak. But with Garmadon showing up and saving him, he would still easily twist back into that dark road. Garmadon could claim that the ninja and his uncle abandoned him. His all-reliable father would never stoop so low. I believe that both would then disappear until the Devourer's revival. I do think it would still get revived. I know there is actually a possibility it wouldn't. Let's just say everything goes about the same until the Fire Temple incident. Garmadon taking care of so many snakes that would swarm the ninja does indeed offset the decision Kai would have to make, as I just don't see him ever getting that far. Who knows, maybe he would, and he would unlock his true potential to save the rest of them. That's not today's theory though, so I'm going to let the Devourer come back. I think Garmadon would arrive and demand the weapons, all this time training with Lloyd. I believe that they would have unlocked some of their Oni powers. What you have to remember is that Lloyd has Oni powers too, not just Dragon. Now, it's somewhat unclear what the golden power was, but I think if he followed this path, he would have been just as proficient at wielding the Oni powers as he was with learning the 4 main elements in the proper timeline. That would in turn push Garmadon to discover his own potential, and they'd train to unlock it. At this point, Garmadon would go alone, leaving Lloyd behind just to make sure the ninja didn't compromise his work by revealing that Wu never came back. He'd make up some lie about not knowing where Wu was, but I think he'd likely have to take the weapons by force. I feel like one of the ninja gives it to him, but feels his dark power and has second thoughts, but it's too late. Maybe even Lloyd would wait in ambush and jump out and take him down. I don't think they'd be killed or anything. Garmadon would be far more interested in attacking the Devourer, which he 100% would. Just because he accepts his Oni side this early on doesn't mean he's not angry at the snake for either forcing him down the route somewhere deep down, or quite simply for becoming evil because of the snake, which he'd seen as a lesser being by far. He'd also likely force a ninja to assist him with their NRG. Whatever the reason, we get some other version of the fight with only powered Lloyd, Garmadon, and the 4 ninja working together, although begrudgingly. To pull off some plan. Skip ahead, it's dead. Ninja retreat away and Garmadon would take the 4 weapons to the Golden Peaks. He'd form the mega weapon, but this time would wish for something more along the lines of, I wish for even greater power! Reveal my father's secrets! I guess I like hinging entire plots on wishes, because I think the weapon would fill him up with all the knowledge he should know. You know, being the son of the first Ninja Master. Never understood that. Anyway, he's now on equal understanding with Wu and would definitely want to know what was on the Dark Island. This Garmadon would not be fooled by the Overlord. I think he'd amass the Serpentine like he did before, but this time the generals wouldn't even attempt to overthrow him. It'd be straight to the Dark Island, where he'd play the Overlord with his own game by playing dumb until the power was shown to him. He'd then just straight up take the helmet and return to Ninjago. Though now he'd understand if he just changes the balance like he wanted to, Overlord is returning. So I think he'd try and get even stronger. Mindset being, if I can get powerful enough, I can assert myself over this being of darkness. Here's where it all goes deeper into speculation, however. I think at some point after this, he'd hit a wall and just focus on training, gathering artifacts, etc. During a fight with Lloyd, he'd discover that Lloyd is in fact the Green Ninja. I don't know how this would happen, perhaps the Mega Weapon would be his primary weapon in some twisted assertion of dominance over the light he'd use to counterbalance his darkness and keep balance relatively okay in order to give him as much time as possible. Who knows? Point is, though, he discovered this and questioned if perhaps he could tap into the power of his father through Lloyd. Imagine some dark, golden power route instead. As the first Mitsu Master was equal parts Oni and Dragon, the fact that he took the Dragon side Ninjago is somewhat irrelevant. I think if he sided with the darkness when coming to Ninjago, we'd have the inverse. This is all pretty reaching, but I just want the Overlord out of the way. Interestingly, the Overlord decided to melt the weapons down into armor. I don't think this was ever explained by anything, other than the prophecy that the golden power would turn against Ninjago. But in this case, it seems quite literal, as Lloyd would have the dark equivalent. For the fun of it, let's say Garmadon realizes that his son is gaining power quick, and doesn't want to be overthrown. So much like the Overlord, he decides it's time, and reforges the Mega Weapon into armor to bolster his power. He'd unlock his full Oni potential and plunge Ninjago into full darkness. This would revive the Overlord, and he'd likely inhabit a body like he did before. Not sure what, might even end up being some random animal. Not sure how that power worked. Would he be constricted to the Dark Island? Whatever the case, he would then regain his dragon form and travel into Ninjago. I imagine a fight would ensue between Garmadon, Lloyd, and the Overlord, a Garmadon with the golden armor and Lloyd with power levels close to that of his golden power, but in his child body. I think the Overlord would be bested in pure combat. But the thing is with the Overlord is that he is the darkness. So these two attacking him with dark powers might be able to destroy his physical form, but he would most likely just send him back into the spirit form, stronger than before. Got no real proof for that, I just get the feeling he was only stoppable in Season 2 with light powers. Having defeated the Overlord physically, his spirit might retreat back out of Ninjago, perhaps into another realm even. Wherever it goes, it won't be back for a while. Rebooted wouldn't happen because it wasn't destroyed in the same way, and I doubt Garmadon would be so happy that with Cyrus Borg even building that tower. So what about Chen? Now in the original timeline, Chen took advantage of the current social climate of Ninjago to lure elemental masters to his island. In this version, I think he'd be quite aware of the threat Garmadon posed. He would take advantage of this to get the elemental masters under his command. It was never stated that he had to steal their powers in order to perform the spell. If they were all willing, I'm sure it would work. So imagine Chen organizing a rebellion where he convinced the elemental masters and ninja to let him do the spell, and they kidnap Pythor to make it permanent. This is pretty much the only way the ninja could recover from this at this point. The Anaconda still wouldn't be enough to defeat the Tsunami though. Considering their historical place, they might still be able to unite the tribes, and depending on how Pythor reacts to this new timeline version of the Anaconda army, he might be willing to even help them out. Or he might reject them entirely and be forced the same way as he was in Tournaments of Elements. This isn't the only unlikely ally though. Crux would take this chance to change his plans ever so slightly, understanding that he probably couldn't stand up to Garmadon and Lloyd alone. Would likely ally himself with Chen. Crux hated the Elemental Masters, as is true, but that was more the ones that stopped him, more than anything else. If these ones would unwittingly assist him, and since Wu is dead, there's no one to know that Acronix is returning besides Crux, I think he'd sell some edited version of the story and his goals to the Elemental Masters. Chen would know precisely who he is, and probably not knowing he betrayed the Elemental Masters would just be interested in the time powers coming to Ninjago. No one would suspect his true intentions, and he'd probably create some alibis as to why he ended up this way. Now, in all honesty, these plot points could go terribly wrong. If we were writing this like the show, Crux would probably get found out and the whole thing would fall apart, if Chen was even trusted at all. But let's say, just for the fun of it, this all goes on and we enter the Hands of Time era. This is the make-or-break moment for Garmadon. If he manages to claim the powers of time, he can fight off the Oni should he decide to when they arrive. But if he fails, the Ninja Lights win. Well, the ninja win. The first Time Blade would land on top of the monastery a few minutes after Acronix lands. It's unclear if he knew it was coming out or not, but let's say at least he stuck around to find it. Perhaps he was looking for things left over in the fire to help him on his journey, considering that the landscape was very different back in his time. And it arrives. This would fast forward everything for a moment, and Garmadon Lloyd team would instantly realize something was going wrong. The plan would jump into motion though. Let's say Crux was found out and the Elemental Masters travelled into his swamp, including Kai, who discovers Ray and Maya. I do not think Crux would openly reveal that he had them. This would drive a rift between them all, and the mission was still at hand. Either Nia has unlocked her powers by this point, or she hasn't. It's possible, but she could just merely find out about them now at the latest. So we'll be safe and send Ray and Maya to retrieve the Reversal Blade. We then have a three-way fight forming. Crux playing along until he finds his brother and the Elemental Masters claiming the Reversal Blade. By the time the slow-motion blade enters Ninjago, Lloyd and Garmadon would be all over it. The Anaconda, Vermilion, and Serpentine traitors that they'd likely have amassed would descend on the desert. Who knows, Cyrus World might even still have the temporal technology and joined up with them. Why not? They find it, Garmadon feels its entry, sends Lloyd to find it, and goes after a Chronix. Remembering all about the Time Twins, the Serpentine traitors, Anaconda and Vermilion, would travel to the desert, with Crux playing nice whilst he goes and looks for his brother. Whilst the Elemental Masters wait for the third one's entry, I think the ninja would go after the army once they learn that Lloyd is there. This is their final chance for Lloyd to turn back to the light. And I honestly think that he was far enough on the path of light to have taken some of the events I forced onto him not so well. He'd be likely a fractured and broken boy, and finding the ninja again, the cracks of his relationship with his father would begin to show. The conflict inside, as he knows deep down Garmadon killed Wu, and figured out that Wu came to get help. But the fact that he's his father, the one person who he wanted to be more like than anything else in the world, would create some amazing character drama. Eventually, the third blade would enter. Garmadon would likely encounter a Chronix and Crux, killing them and taking the Time Blade. The Vermilion would fall to the control of the three generals, who'd still not realize they died, most likely, and would keep fighting. Ray and Maya would show up with the reversal blade on the site of the final one, with the other Elemental Masters then travel to the fight, which is where Garmadon went straight. And the final battle begins. This would probably go close to how Thanos with almost complete Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity War went, just with Garmadon and his only powers, Golden Armor, Newly Acquired Time Blade, and Tsunami. The Rebels would have the other three, plus any sort of artifacts that Chen outfitted them with. Classless magic, all of the elemental powers, and a whole lot more people. Mr. would have kept a very low profile up until this point, and for the heck of it, she shows up, goes full Oni and attack Garmadon as well. Even with all this power, I still think it would be quite hard for Garmadon not to win here, taking all of their items and either allying with or annihilating the Oni when they come later on. There are still a ton of ways the ninja could pull through here. Here's a few. Lloyd betrays him and joins the light, the fight ending in his defeat. The Overlord returns with his new power and destroys them all while they're focused on each other. The Rebels coordinate perfectly and work all around Garmadon's insane power-ups, including likely his Oni Titan he'd probably have summoned / created, however that worked. And 4. Tornado of Creation Ex Machina. Well, that was something. This was a really fun video to make, as it's completely off the rails compared to last time. It was so much more enjoyable. Just going crazy with what we have available and making some admittedly pretty dang large assumptions. Although Golden Armor, Time Blade wielding, full-powered Oni Garmadon with Lloyd and the Stone Army helping is 100% a very difficult battle for anyone to win, no matter how many. I know people might assume I'm highballing Garmadon too much, or even Kid Lloyd. Maybe. I mean, we have far more assumptions getting there. Sure, the Rebel Ninja Alliance would have a ton of numbers, some pretty decent overall attack power in their elements, and 3 out of 4 Time Blades. Garmadon has fast forward, so he could technically counteract all of their powers, which is what I think he would do. Which is what I think would happen in the third possibility for Ninja win, until they get a hold of themselves and outsmart him. In all honesty, thanks to the sheer number of power-ups the Ninja have been given over the years, there could be dozens upon dozens of possibilities for them to stop him even before this point. But this was just a fun series of events nonetheless. Thank you all for watching. Tell me what you thought of this, whether you liked this one more than last time, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.